You have heard the statement by Donald Trump. He talked that there is intention that if the hostages are not returned to Gaza at 12 p.m. on Saturday, he will turn it into hell once again. Don't you think that this is will return the chaosity and the massacre to Gaza Strip once more?
Well, I think Donald Trump means that he will bring hell to Hamas, not the people of Gaza or the good Palestinians of Gaza. We are dealing with Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist group that has hostages. It's my opinion, I think they saw the last few hostages that were just released by Hamas, and they looked like they came from a concentration camp. They did not look good, and maybe they told authorities how they were treated and what was going on. So there seems to be a sudden urgency now to get everybody out. I think that's what Donald Trump is talking about, and this is directed to Hamas.
Mr. Barry, I would respect your point of view that the Hamas movement is a terrorist, but this war is not against Hamas movement. It is launched against innocent civilian, and you have known the statistics of the killings in Gaza Strip. This large number of civilians who were killed due to the Israeli military mechanism and by American rockets.
Yeah, so it is absolutely horrible that there has been collateral damage in this full-scale war in a very small space, which is Gaza. I don't see that Israel is targeting specific civilian people on purpose. They are trying to root out Hamas. The problem is Hamas mixes itself around innocent people. If it was the intention of Israel to wipe out Palestinians, I think we wouldn't have Palestinians trying to return to Palestine. And we also have to look at the West Bank. There's nobody leaving from the West Bank, to my knowledge. The Palestinians there.
Do you justify the killing of the civilian and the innocent men and women and children in Gaza Strip?
No, absolutely not. And nobody does. I don't think the United States does, or even Israel. But when you have a full-scale war at the Gaza, there is going to be people that are going to be injured and killed accidentally. Israel is attacking Hamas, and we see that there's still an armed group of Hamas. We see at the prisoner exchanges a very well regulated militia that still exists. So I think that's also why Israel doesn't consider the job done quite yet.
I return once again to our other guest, Mr. Arif. Mr. Arif, as you heard from Mr. Barry that Hamas is still existing in Gaza Strip, there is a militant Hamas individual. Don't you think, Mr. Arif, that Israel has failed to eliminate the Hamas movement? It's unfortunate that after 15 months, after the acknowledgement of Israeli leaders and officers and Israeli academic, they have acknowledged that Israel is conducting genocide and they are targeting civilian, and there are some confession that the soldier were instructed to kill civilian, including children, after the majority of the political figures said that they are targeting everything in Gaza Strip, rocks and humans. And when Benjamin Netanyahu said that this is the war of Yeshua bin Nun, which target everything, and we now hear American academic or professor who actually pretended to be telling the truth, and he is misleading us The whole world knows the reality. The criminal court knows the reality. The public knows the reality. But an American academic and professor can mislead us in this situation. This is a big lie. And this lie is not accepted. This discourse, this misleading discourse, is not new. We understand about this misleading discourse. The reality is crystal clear. The facts are crystal clear. The Zionist movement is now naked. It was a Christian and it was a Jewish. It's now naked in front of the eyes of the whole world. And what's Trump doing now? Has a threat. Actually, he is incited by the American Zionist movement, the Anglican, the Protestant, and the Zionist Christian movement, who are concentrating on the Israeli bigger land. These ideas which comes from hell, they have to get rid of these hell ideas. They don't care about the people, the children. They are not. They don't care about the women. They are ready to destroy everything in order to achieve their beliefs, and this is the core of the problem. This fascism activities. Now I move to Mr. Jamal. Mr. Jamal, the question for you. The situation is not related to Gaza Strip, but there is now a threat to Jordan and Egypt. And this this complicates the matter, makes things worse. The question for Mr. Jamal. Egypt and Jordan have limitation toward the Palestinian cause. There is a historical responsibility by Egypt and Jordan. There is humanitarian and geographical responsibility beared by Jordan and Egypt. And the Egyptian and the Jordanian stance specifically was established on the three limits to preserve the national security of this country. It is not allowed to transfer the conflict from Palestine to Gaza and to Egypt in order to preserve the national security of Jordan of Egypt. This is the second issue. Actually, the total rejection for the qualification of the Palestinian cause, to end the Palestinian cause and to eliminate the Palestinian cause, to force the Palestinian out of their land. So there is a rejection by Egypt and Jordan for the cessation of the Palestinian state. And also, this escalation means tension in the Arab countries and extension to the conflict. The threats are not against Egypt and Jordan, but against the whole Middle East countries. No, not a single Arab country can be ruled out. All the Arab countries can be affected by the expansion of this conflict. It is the first time that we hear the United States talking about the forced displacement to. Now, I move to Mr. Donadio. From your point of view, do you think that Trump have the authorities to force to force the Palestinian from their land to other countries? Does he have the authority to do so?
Well, Donald Trump has the authority to bring peace to the region, and that's what a lot of Palestinians are hoping for, as well as the Egyptians, the Jordanians, and the Israelis. We have to also look at, and I understand and respect the anger of the colleague on the other end. I am sorry for the losses that Palestine has suffered, but we don't see Israeli forces or Americans removing Palestinians from the West Bank. There is no ethnic cleansing. Okay, we see Palestinians returning to the north. We've seen that over the past week or so. So Palestinians are returning to Gaza, But I would like Palestinians, and I think that Donald Trump wants Palestinians returning to a safe Gaza to limit any kind of casualties. And that's why he has asked al-Sisi of Egypt to allow some Palestinians in to be refugees into Egypt, as well as King Abdullah from Jordan. So I don't see this as a permanent relocation of all Palestinians from Gaza. I don't see a Gaza without Palestinians.
Mr. Berry, Trump didn't say that they will be relocated temporarily. He said exactly it may be temporal and it may be long term. There is a forced displacement now against the Palestinian people. Don't you see that?
I see how someone can perceive that. He also said that they make a choice, if we look at his words. So there's not going to be a forced relocation of anybody. There are Palestinians that want to relocate to Egypt, and they have tried to do that, and the gate at Jaffa has been closed. So there's going to be things that may be different. Nothing we have all done as a human race has done anything to keep the violence from the Gaza. It's been going on for many years, even since all of us on this program have been children. Me personally, I'm tired of it. A new thing has to happen. We have broken a paradigm here. This may be the beginning of a peace. And again, you will see Palestinians in Gaza, that is for certain.
I don't know about any peace you are talking about. The last statement by Trotman said that the people will leave Gaza Strip if they were allowed to move to a safer countries. But my question: who can decide the fate of the Palestinian? Why shouldn't the United States leave the Palestinian people decide their future? Why?
I think you're correct. It's a very good question, and they are going to decide where they go. I think you're going to see that many of them want to move to Jordan, even temporarily or permanent. That's going to be a decision that they make. Again,
I don't talk about where they go. Why? I say why. Why the United States don't leave the Palestinian to decide their future? Why the Palestinian would remain in Palestine? So why should they force the Palestinian out?
well, any forcing of anybody out of a specific area of Gaza would be simply because it is an active war zone. We talk in this program that there's high casualty rate of civilians. In order to prevent high casualty rate of civilians, we have to get them away from the fighting. Right now, we're in a ceasefire. This is not an end to the war. This is a hostage exchange. I expect if Hamas continues to exist as
why the United States don't follow the same scenario with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan? Why the United States don't repeat the same scenario? The United States has many wars. Why it didn't follow the same strategy to relocate the innocent civilian from Afghanistan or Iraq? Why didn't America decide to do this with the Iraqis? Why didn't the United States do this with the Afghans? Why it's now going to do this in Gaza Strip? Why?
My interpretation of that is simply there is nowhere else for the Palestinians to go. They are trapped in Gaza. They right now, as today is, they can't just simply go to Egypt or Jordan or Lebanon. Okay, so in the case of Iraq, Iraq is a large country where people can move and be out of a war zone. But as you know, Gaza is a very small piece of land for 1.8 million people. And the war is almost everywhere in Gaza. There is nowhere safe. And unfortunately, this is why we're seeing high casualty rates of civilians.
So, well, the Israeli should now leave the Palestinian people decide their future. So it's up to the Palestinian to decide, not to the Israeli or the American. I will return to you once again, Mr. Barry, but I will go back to you after listening to our other guests. He said that the Palestinian must be relocated in order to eliminate the terrorist, what they call the terrorism. Why shouldn't the American relocate the Israeli in order to eliminate the Israeli terrorism? Why they provide the Israeli with weapons, the 35 Jetfire and all type of weapons? Why they shouldn't provide the Israeli with the weapon to destroy the Palestinian and to destroy and to kill the Palestinian? Why shouldn't the American take the Israeli to their land? In the United States, it's safer for the Israeli to relocate. These talks, this statement about peace, actually we no longer accept this statement. The United States of America don't seek peace. The United States is only looking for its own interest and to steal the capabilities of the peoples. Israel is an occupation project led by the United States. It was established by the Universal Zionist Movement led by the United Kingdom, and now it is the United States of America which is taking the lead to capture the wealth of the Middle East. In 1967, 200,000 Palestinians were forced out from Jerusalem. They now want to force out all the Palestinians from Gaza Strip to present a gift to the Israeli. This occupation project, which don't seek peace or settlement, they are only seeking their own imperial interest. So we don't need anyone to mislead us. We know the fact. If they need the peace and the security, let them take the Israeli to their land. Palestine will remain for the Palestinian, and it will remain forever for the Palestinian people. They want to create so this is if we talk about to which extent Donald Trump will go by his statement, to which extension actually his statement cannot be understood. At the beginning, there are 2 points I want to respond to the guest in the United States. The first point, that the Palestinian has a desire to go to Jordan or to Egypt. This is unrealistic. The Palestinian want to remain in their land. They don't want to abandon their lands, even if there is a statement by Egypt or Jordan, there is a desire by the Palestinian to stay in their land. He said also that Trump has provided options, but actually Trump is providing options, and there are always sanctions accompanying these options. He said that he will impose sanctions on Egypt, and Egypt, if they don't accept his demand, if they don't receive the Palestinian, he said that he would cast the aid to Egypt and to Jordan. This is forced migration. There is a forced displacement against the Palestinian, and they are threatening the Palestinian to relocate. So Trump is not providing options, but the United States want to force migrate and force displace the Palestinian people. They have said that they want to relocate the Palestinians to Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. In terms of Trump's statement, we thought that he is raising the ceiling of the demand in order to sit and negotiate, but actually he is destroying the key pillars. He is destroying all the pillars of negotiation. If we talk about the core of the Palestinian cause, he say that the Palestinian has no place in Gaza Strip. So what are the bases of negotiation? So the other side must realize that there is a limit of demand in order to sit together and negotiate about the future, not only the future of the Gaza Strip, but also the future of the Middle East, which is now actually not as a stake, but actually it is going to hell. The Middle East is going to hell. This region actually is surrounded by crisis from everywhere. So Trump's statement until now is not realistic. Actually, it reiterates the voice of the right-wing Zionist movement. Trump is talking as if he a minister in Netanyahu government. So there should be from the decision maker in the United States, the decision maker in the United States must intervene. The United States decision maker should control the foreign policy of the United States. They shouldn't leave the foreign policy to Trump. The United States is now making trouble with many countries like Canada, like China. This course actually does not fit the United States. The United States should perform better than this course. So I think that the decision maker in the United States must intervene. The deep state must intervene, and they have to limit the action by Trump. And by the way, there could be some disparities among the American administration. I think they will not leave him do everything he wants. I think that there were some differences between the officials inside the United States. So I think maybe there will be a crack inside the decision-making process because Trump is threatening the American interest. Mr. Barry, back to you.
Yeah.
Mr. Jamal mentioned a very important point. You said yourself that Trump gives options. How can we explain this option which is accompanied by sanctions and threats?
So Donald Trump is threatening a terrorist group, which I think the whole world would agree with. He is sanctioning terrorist groups, Hamas, okay? They need to return the hostages by Saturday at 12, or there's going to hell break loose, like you said. All right, this is going to be actions against Hamas. The other sanctions you're speaking of with maybe tariffs against Egypt, they have to share the burden of the situation, as well as Jordan, even Israel. Based on everything I'm hearing, I understand the anger, but we have to give Donald Trump a chance to fix this problem, okay? We can base Donald Trump's actions on his past. He is a great peacemaker. We saw him meet with the leader of North Korea, which may have prevented a war at the time. So it is in the interest of Donald Trump to stop.
How we can call Trump a peacemaker? He wants to impose a sanction in two states, Egypt and Jordan, because they rejected to receive the Palestinian refugee. But we know that if they receive the Palestinian refugee, this means an end to the Palestinian cause, and this will mean no peace and no in the region.
I would say giving a try to anything at this point is better than the route we have been taking over the past 50 years. Where we were before October 7th.
Which opportunity, which chance we should give to him? Should we give him a chance to destroy the region? He will destroy the region, but by such decisions.
No, sir. I don't believe that. I think the goal is to rebuild Gaza. I forecast that even the airport will be rebuilt, as well as the railroad will be rebuilt. There will be housing rebuilt. 1.8 million Palestinians can't go anywhere but Gaza. There are some people that may relocate to Egypt and Jordan. That will lessen the burden on the lack of space in Jordan and also protect people from what is an active war zone. We don't know what's going to be happening in Gaza 3 weeks from now. Hostilities may spin back up if the hostages are not released, like Donald Trump said. I imagine there will be military action taken against Hamas.
What is your proof that Trump wants and his objectives to displace Gazan people in order to build a safer place for Palestinians? Do you have a proof on this?
I have the proof of his past history, which kept the United States out of any wars for 4 years. We saw him meet...
Past history. Which past history? We are talking about the deal of the decade. In his first term, he wants to implement the deal of the decade, if you remember.
Yes, well, I imagine in a negotiation for peace, not everybody is going to get everything they want. But overall, between Egypt, Jordan, President Abbas, with the Palestinian Authority, Donald Trump, the Israelis, even the Lebanese, there's going to be a solution. I forecast peace. I forecast a rebuilt Gaza. I think it's not going to be easy, but I think first we have to stop the fighting, which is most Americans want. Most Americans want the Palestinians to be safe, and they want peace in the region, just like I want peace in the region. So that is what the goal is. I don't think it is the goal for Donald Trump to create havoc.
Last question for you, Mr. Barry, and in a hurry, please. If you were forced out of your own country, if you were forced out of your house under the pretext for peace, what would your position, would be your stance?
If I lived in Gaza right now, I would leave Gaza right now for my own safety, the safety of my children.
No. I mean that if you were forced out, yourself forced out of your country under the pretext of peacemaking, what would you do?
It would really depend on if I was living in an active war zone. If I was in the middle of a war zone where bombs and missiles are falling, I would leave.
Mr. Barry, please, I need you to read more about the national affiliation. Thank you very much for being with us from Maryland. Thank you. And also thanks to Mr. Jamal Raif. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also